back to winning isn't easy. Lincoln Eller-Stanlow's long-term disability claim denial remanded because of Lincoln's failure to provide a full and fair review. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS, affects connective tissue like your skin, joints, and blood vessel walls. There are different types of EDS, like hypermobile EDS or vascular EDS, but the most common signs and symptoms of EDS include overflexible joints, stretchy skin, fragile skin, and other symptoms that can vary from person to person. There are also complications from EDS that can impact a person's entitlement to their disability benefits. I will tell you that disability carriers or plans rarely appreciate the symptoms, severity of the symptoms, and complications of EDS. They take a cookie-cutter approach, one-size-fits-all, to the analysis of an EDS claim. And this often leads to a claims denial or termination. I want to give you an example. This is the case of Rebecca Pfeiffer, who was a dental analyst for Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina. And she became disabled because of Ehlers-Danlos and osteoarthritis of the cervical spine, right shoulder, hands, and feet. Lincoln paid her benefits for 10 years, from 2010 to 2020. But as usual, they pulled out their surveillance camera. Let's talk about symptoms and surveillance in an EDS case. Now, this is a game that's played in cases, regardless of whether it's Ehlers-Danlos, but it's the game that they will play to try to justify a claims denial or termination. So here's how the game goes. They'll ask you to complete a activities of daily living form, and they will call you. The claims examiner will call you for an update, notwithstanding the fact that you just filled out a form. And in this case, Pfeiffer advised that she had lots of joint pain, with pain in her hands, her neck, and her shoulder. She reported that she had trouble walking, used a cane as needed. She didn't do any hobbies anymore. She didn't really travel because walking was tough. Now, guess what the surveillance showed? It showed that there were, and by the way, this was 16 hours of surveillance. It showed her walking normally without a cane and driving a vehicle. So obviously there's a question here. She tells us one thing on the ADL forms, and she tells us something in the statement to us, which is somewhat corroborative, but the surveillance film contradicts what she has said. So what do disability carriers do at this point? Well, they'll either use their rights to a not so independent medical evaluation or a not so objective functional capacity evaluation. Now, during the course of the FCE, which is a testing, it can be 4 to 8 hours that tests your ability to walk, sit, stand, stoop, lift, she reported elevated pain. And as a result of that elevated pain, she didn't perform a lot of the testing. She didn't do the push-pull test, the carrying test, and she didn't lift weights because she reported pain. Now, the physical therapist concluded that she could do sedentary work, but did not discuss any functional limitations involving her hands and her feet. And as expected, based on the finding that she could do sedentary work, the Lincoln said, "Too bad, so sad, we're terminating your benefits." She filed an appeal. That was denied. And of course, we're now in federal court. So the question is, what did the federal court do? Pfeiffer kept a symptoms journal which contained numerous entries regarding the pain in her hands, feet, and ankle. Lincoln never gave the peer review doctors this journal. And as a result, the peer review doctor was only reviewing medical records and not discussing her symptoms. Additionally, Lincoln ignored the subjective manifestation of her pain, which is consistent with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. The court noted that when a claimant suffers pain and fatigue because of the disease, the subjective complaints will serve to pinpoint the precise intensity of the symptoms and her inability to endure them over the course of a work week. Now, fortunately for her, the court concluded that the termination was not the result of a reasoned and principled decision-making process, notwithstanding the surveillance. But instead of awarding benefits, the court remanded the case back to Lincoln to get the termination right. So in my view, what Pfeiffer should be doing, because the case is getting remanded, is to continue, obviously, to get medical treatment, to be compliant with that medical treatment, to continue to keep a diary that documents the problems she has with her joints and in particular her hands. As appropriate, take pictures if there's any swelling of the hands, or some video documenting the difficulties she has using her hands. She should undergo her own functional capacity evaluation that concentrates on the issue of bilateral manual dexterity and the ability to do sustained repetitive motion with her hands. Why? You can't do full-time sustained sedentary work if you have problems doing repetitive tasks with your hands. She should also consider undergoing a PCE test, a scan test that will measure their fatigue level and their impact on their ability to do sustained sedentary employment. This involves measurement of your heart rate, measurement of your oxygen exchange, and helps address the issues of fatigue. She should also hire a vocational evaluator to address her ability to do sedentary work in view of the totality of her medical condition. Those are the things I think she should do. But in the meantime, do you have any idea of what Lincoln is probably going to do with this claim? We all know what they're going to do. They're going to deny the claim again. So hopefully she will have someone giving her this kind of advice, and she will have her claim ready to file yet another appeal and potentially another lawsuit against Lincoln. Got it? Let's take a break.